Tonight, police are issuing a public warning to parents after uncovering a major stash of black market cannabis products.
A lot of the edibles, cannabis edibles that were seized are actually produced to look like children's candy.
With less than a month before the first pot shops open in Ontario, police are cracking down. Plus,
you had to run across lanes of traffic. There are no lights, nothing.
Etobicoke's Spaghetti Junction is getting a makeover in an effort to make the area more pedestrian-friendly. And on this International Women's Day, we'll take you to the Pam McConnell Award ceremony for young women in leadership. Good evening, I'm Talia Ricci. Police are issuing a public warning tonight after uncovering nearly $2 million worth of illegal edible cannabis products. The items were seized from a dispensary in Kensington Market, and as Farmer Morale tells us, police are worried about the way the products are packaged.
Sugar-coated gummy bears and bags of cotton candy. No, this is not inventory from your neighborhood candy store.
It's one of the probably the largest seizure that we've seen of edible products in York Region. And what was striking with them is just how much they look like candy. Cotton candy, lollipops, chocolate bars, and all packaged looking just like candy.
In total, $1.7 million worth of cannabis and edible products were seized, a sign police say that the black market for edibles is flourishing.
When the federal government legalized marijuana under the Cannabis Act last year, it only legalized fresh and dried cannabis, cannabis oils, and plants and seeds for cultivation. That means technically edibles are still illegal. But that's set to change later this year. The Cannabis Act is expected to be amended in October to include edibles and other products.
In just a few weeks, provincially licensed marijuana storefronts are set to open, but they won't have any edibles.
So what are these?
Well, these here are called Buds and Bolts, and this is an infused snack mix. Here it's got a hybrid strain in it.
Amy Brown is a cannabis advocate and a well-known cannabis baking instructor.
Edibles are everywhere. Although they are still not legal, the black market is saturated with edibles, and because of the fact that the legal market doesn't have edibles.
Brown says the race is on in the edibles industry to pair with licensed producers, but they'll have to follow Health Canada's proposed regulations.
The packaging on this as well, you'll see that it's colorful. It's got a little happy little guy on it. This is completely also against the proposed regulations because this appeals to kids. There's a little cartoon on there and the colors. There's proposed regulations, but there's nothing set in stone yet. So a lot of companies are trying to get their branding out and get their name out there in the general public before it's legalized, so that when it is, people will know of their product and they'll be able to look for them in the legal market.
With that, don't expect these black market products to disappear anytime soon.
Here at the Lit Paper and Glass, it appears it's business as usual. The open sign is back on, and people have been coming and going through the evening. Farah Morale, CBC News, Toronto.
A man is fighting for his life in hospital after being shot multiple times. It happened shortly after midnight at a gas station near Eglinton and Avenue Road. Police said a vehicle drove into the gas station and a man fired at the victim, hitting him multiple times. The victim was inside a Jeep parked at a gas pump at the time. Police spent the morning combing through the scene, making molds of evidence scattered on the ground. Police are asking anyone who may have witnessed the shooting to come forward. And an update to a story we brought you last night. This blaze that started in the basement of an unoccupied house in the Lawrence Park area yesterday evening quickly went from 3-alarm to 6-alarm status. The home on Rochester Avenue was under construction, which made it dangerous for crews to go inside with a risk of building material collapsing on them. The fire chief gave an update today, and he was joined by Mayor John Tory.
We are still actively fighting. There's still what we call hotspots or some flare-ups. We're actually in discussion now about whether we're going to need to engage heavy equipment. We may need to take part of the building apart to fully suppress it.
I just want to say thank you to the fire service and the men and women who served, all of them. There's a lot of firefighters when you added it all up over the course of 15 or 18 hours.
The freezing temperatures and icy surfaces also hampered efforts to knock the fire down. No word yet on the cause. Well, you may have to find alternate routes if you're traveling in Etobicoke's 6 Points neighborhood over the next few days. The interchange, referred to by many as Spaghetti Junction, will be closed until Tuesday at 5 a.m. The work started this evening at 7 o'clock. Kelda Yoon explains why.
6 Points resident John Longcar is getting a last look at the Dundas overpass. By next week, it will be a thing of the past. He, for one, is glad.
It would take forever to walk half a kilometer because you had to run across lanes of traffic through. There are no lights, nothing.
The driver used to get lost all the time. I used to get lost sometimes, even my husband driving, used to get the exit wrong way.
The Dundas and Bloor bridges over Kipling will be demolished over the next few days. A pedestrian-friendly area with more sidewalks and bike lanes is planned. It will take drivers about 35 seconds longer to get through the area during rush hour. But for lifelong resident and city councillor Stephen Holliday, the pros outweigh the cons.
It's always a concerning change when you introduce delay into the system, and it's something that needs to be balanced out with the idea that, navigating the old intersection was not an easy thing, including for drivers. I've taken the ramp that we're standing on many, many times and had to change multiple lanes to try to make my exit for Kipling.
Besides the new road network that will be created when these bridges are leveled, a lot of new land will also be unlocked. Now, one plot has already been earmarked for the Etobicoke Civic Center, but a lot of the other lands will go towards housing development, including many affordable units. A few high-rises have already sprung up. A few weeks ago, the city's design panel was given an update on the project.
Now, what are some of their critiques?
Their real concern was what happens next. Having created this new streets and blocks pattern, they wanted to be sure that the buildings that would get built would not take the form of isolated towers. And what goes along with the housing? It's not just the housing. Will there be opportunities for employment? Will there be shops? Will it be possible for young families to raise kids?
While the road network is on track to be finished by spring 2020, other elements like land development are works in progress.
As a councillor, I welcome people's feedback on what they're seeing, and if they have ideas for improvement as we go along or concerns that they have, make sure that those are sent into the city so that we can do the best job we can in managing this change.
Another major element of the revitalization of 6 Points here in Etobicoke is the revamping of Kipling Station. It will become a mobility hub. It will integrate the subway and TTC buses as well as GO trains and buses. That will happen after the road network is complete in 2020. Kelda Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
Meteorologist Nick Sternkovich joins us now for a first look at our forecast. Today was such a beautiful day. I would be happy if that lasted the entire weekend, but I'm guessing we won't be so lucky.
Not so lucky, no, Talia. Tomorrow actually is not looking too bad, but we do have a system moving in through Saturday night into Sunday. Environment Canada issuing a special weather statement for this. So expect clear skies tonight. Look for sunshine through tomorrow, but tomorrow evening, this system is making its way into the GTA. It's going to bring with it some freezing rain to start and then some heavy rainfall through Saturday night into Sunday morning before it switches back over to a little bit of snow squall activity. For tonight, look for temperatures down to minus 13 degrees, light winds tomorrow, 1 degree, winds picking up in advance of this system. And as I mentioned, there is a special weather statement in effect. We'll have full details on that coming up in just a bit.
All right, thanks, Nick.
You bet.
It's International Women's Day, and events are taking place across the city to mark the occasion.
Today, we celebrate the progress we've made, but we must acknowledge that we still have a long way to go. Women or girls still face disproportionately higher rates of violence, greater poverty, including more precarious employment, lower wages, religious persecution, lack of representation in senior and political positions.
An event was held in council chambers to celebrate the day, led by the Toronto Public Service Women's Network. And just a few blocks away, the Minister for Women and Equality, Maryam Monsef, was making dreams come true. She handed out the single largest investment in women's organizations in Canadian history. Over 250 projects will receive a total of $100 million over the next 5 years. And among the celebrations, there was also a remembrance of an influential Torontonian. Former City Councillor Pam McConnell died in 2017, and her legacy of social activism continues in young women in the city, all seeking to push the boundaries of the status quo. Adrian Chung has the story.
A look into the future of the young women driving Toronto forward. They've all built programs and services for the most vulnerable in their communities.
It's amazing. It's amazing to see these people who are so grounded in community and they want to make change. And they don't want to sit back and talk about things, they want to make things happen.
All of it drawing inspiration from a former city councillor who made that her life's work. Pam McConnell served on city council for 23 years until her death in 2017. She gained a reputation for social activism and for fighting for people living at the margins. She was a mentor to and continues to be an inspiration for Councillor Kristen Wong-Tam.
City Hall can be a very big and intimidating place. My first term my office was right next to Pam's. She really recognized that there were a few new women councillors who she wanted to mentor, and she went out of her way to show us kindness. She showed us how things worked.
And McConnell's daughter, proud to see the legacy of her mother's work continue.
Creating that space to allow women to share and celebrate those accomplishments was something that I think she worked very hard to create. And so I think today we got to see the fruit of that labor.
The work these leaders have taken on can be tough.
We've created after-school programs, we've done backpack giveaways, we've done community barbecues, and it just creates a sense of family and community.
We look at health holistically, so it's all about improving the mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual wellness of youth.
Exactly the kind of work McConnell would have backed and pushed young people to take on.
She would be humbled, but I think she would mostly just be proud to build up and to bring up leaders and to really do that in a way that allowed the many voices to come out.
Adrian Chung, CBC News, Toronto.
Coming up, a new report says people living with disabilities face soul-crushing barriers on a daily basis in this province, and that a fully accessible Ontario is a long way off. And we have some breaking news tonight from Mississauga. Peel police say a stabbing victim has been taken to hospital with life-threatening injuries. Police responded to a call just before 10:30 tonight in the Huron-Ontario Street and Lakeshore Road area. Officers say they have one suspect in custody. The board of Hydro One has finally bowed to pressure from the Ford government. Their next CEO will not be getting more than $1.5 million in compensation. Other executives' compensation will be capped at 75% of the CEO's. Hydro One and the government had been disputing over executive compensation. The province had rejected an earlier plan that would have capped the CEO's pay at nearly $2.8 million. The board argued it would be difficult to recruit qualified executives for anything less. Ontario's Minister of Seniors and Accessibility, Raymond Cho, is looking at ways to make life more accessible after a scathing report from the province's former Lieutenant Governor. David Onley looked at Ontario's law that has been in place for almost 15 years. He spoke with people across the province who say supports are still woefully lacking. And that doesn't just mean infrastructure, but also access to jobs and health care. Onley is calling on all provincial ministries to take on the accessibility cause. And to get a better sense of what someone with a disability goes through, Lisa Shing spoke with YouTuber Molly Burke, who owns the fact that she's blind in her videos.
Like at first it was weird because I was so used to traditional media and looking slightly off camera to the interviewer's face. But now I'm like, but it's so much less personal to not look at the camera. Are you sure you don't want me to look? Hey guys, it's Molly here again for another video. Ready to jump off a cliff? Are you ever ready to jump off a cliff? Till I was 14 and in grade 8, the disease was kind of triggered and I lost pretty much the majority of my vision to what I have now.
This is Molly Burke. She's a YouTuber with close to 2 million subscribers. Her videos are all about living life as someone who is blind.
How much of a difference does technology make in your life?
I always say I am very lucky to be a blind person in the 21st century. I'm only disabled by what is not accessible. So when something like my phone has a voice program that I can use, I'm not disabled because I can text my friends.
What do you think is, I guess, the role of the government to support people who need a little more accessibility?
It's very hard to cultivate young disabled people to become leaders and contributing members to society when we aren't giving them the opportunities and creating accessible spaces for them. Well, this Braille is very not well placed then. I mean, like, how the hell would you supposed to find that? This isn't gonna make you realize what it's like to be blind, but it's gonna give you a little bit of an experience of what it's like to be missing one of your senses for a short period of time. Like if you just want to like that, it feels a little more secure. That's how I always choose to do it. It's like a little more intimate and cozy than just grabbing the elbow, but now you can probably feel that I took a step down. So my body is telling you
to take a
step down. And if I get up, bon chien. Whew. I know.
This is not easy.
If you're in like a stiletto, it's definitely not easy.
How is that possible?
And then we have a door in front of us. The door handles are always different. There's no like set, it's push, it's pull, it's a lever, it's a pull bar. You're always kind of feeling around to find it.
How do you navigate crowds then?
It's all a combination of gallop and using my ears and my spatial awareness. So I'm very in tune with what I'm listening to. It's not that my senses have magically heightened like a superhero.
You get a lot of questions about that, I assume.
Yes, but it's that I'm in tune with it.
Okay.
Come on, Gallop.
Yep. I'm hearing people walking by. Totally bumped into someone.
Yeah, that people love to do that.
Or they bumped into me, I don't know.
Frankly, you're the blindfolded one, they bumped into you.
Thank you, I appreciate that. How is wintertime different for you?
It is the worst. I think for anybody with a disability, I mean, we all struggle in winter.
Yeah.
But when you have a disability especially, navigation becomes so much more difficult if sidewalks aren't cleared properly. Because even for my guide dog, everything just looks white. There's ice that he can't see.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Molly. I really appreciate you taking me on the little route and talking to me about your experiences.
Oh, thank you so much. This is awesome.
Coming up, female employees make up 1/3 of management at Metrolinx. But by 2021, the company wants to bump that up to half. We'll tell you how they plan to do that coming up.
The weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Transportation is an industry that's been historically dominated by men, but Metrolinx has set some goals to get more women on board. I spoke to these trailblazing women about some of the challenges they've faced and also why they love their jobs.
I was clearly walking into a man's world, a boys' club. There weren't many women there.
Reflecting on the transportation industry 30 years ago, Tracy Harris says a lot has changed.
There were no women's facilities, so we progressed and got over that obstacle. And men also looked at me like I'm going to have to do your job. And at some point I thought, well, maybe they're right.
From second-guessing her skills to teaching them, Harris is now a training supervisor with Bombardier Transportation, working with Metrolinx.
I interrupted their workplace. I interrupted Sunshine Girl posters had to come down. I do feel that I've paved a small path for women in this industry.
Can you tell me a little bit about what you do and why you love it?
I've been a locomotive engineer for almost 6 years. I've been employed with Bombardier for 11. I started out as a conductor, and we get on the train and we go where we're supposed to go depending on what our schedule is and what line I'm running on. My day flies by. I do 90 stops in one day, back and forth from Oshawa to Aldershot.
Davies is passionate about her role, but she's had her share of obstacles too.
I was put in a position when I was throwing my very first switch, and I didn't get any tips or pointers, and I struggled to get it done. And I was I could hear them kind of cackling, oh yeah, you're not strong enough. And I'm like,
Really? Watch me.
Currently, women make up 32% of the workforce at Metrolinx and 33% of management. In addition to recruiting more women in rail operations, part of their goal is to increase the number of women in management positions to 50% by 2021.
We have a larger predominance of women using the GO system than men, not significantly, but more. So in order to understand the needs of our customers and to meet those needs, we have to better understand them. And what better way than to have the people working in our system being women?
There's still some work to be done, but these women say they're also proud of the progress that's been made.
I've actually asked women, do they feel they're walking into a man's workplace, or are they just walking into a workplace? And women, I'm proud to say, are saying now that they're walking into a workplace.
Nick's back now with our extended forecast, and you left us on a little bit of a cliffhanger. I need to know what's happening on Sunday.
All right, we're going to jump right into it. Special weather statement in effect for the City of Toronto, in fact, for all of Southern Ontario and parts of Central Ontario as well. And here's what we're expecting. So this applies to Saturday night into Sunday. Freezing rain Saturday night for the City of Toronto. Few hours of it, followed by heavy rainfall, about 15 to 25 millimeters of rain. That takes us through till about Sunday afternoon, and then we switch over to snow squalls with winds picking up to about 70 to 80 kilometers per hour. If you have travel plans to the north of the GTA around Lake Huron and Georgian Bay, look for snowfall as much as about 10 plus centimeters of snow. Now, it's all coming with the system. It's called Colorado Low. It's going to develop, and as it tracks into the GTA, we're looking at rain or cloud cover starting through the afternoon on Saturday, and then there's your risk of freezing rain right along the warm front here. As we move through Saturday night into Sunday, we're expecting to see periods of heavy rainfall, as I said, about 15 to 25 millimeters of rain, and this is also where our warm-up comes for Sunday morning. Temperatures don't stay warm, though. Colder winds moving in behind the system as we switch to snow flurries. There's a broad look at what we can expect in terms of rainfall accumulations through Sunday, and winds, as I mentioned as well, are going to be a factor, especially through Sunday morning. Winds out of the south up to about 80 kilometers per hour, and then as they shift out of the west through Sunday afternoon, we're looking at colder weather moving into the GTA once again. Tonight down in southwestern Ontario, temperatures around -10, -12 degrees, above the zero mark for tomorrow with sunshine. Around the Golden Horseshoe, we're looking at temperatures tonight around -14, but tomorrow up to +1 in the area. And then through the next 5 days, it looks like this. Sunny, as I mentioned, through Saturday. Don't forget to switch your clocks forward Saturday night. There's that mix into Sunday, and then next week hovering just above the zero mark with a few flurries on Monday.
All right, not so bad with those higher temperatures. Thanks,
No,
Nick.
you bet.
The St. Patrick's Day Parade is just 2 days away. It takes place on Sunday, starting at the corner of Bloor and St. George, then heading east on Bloor, south on Yonge, turning west onto Queen, and finishing at Nathan Phillips Square. It starts at noon, but remember, clocks go forward an hour overnight on Saturday. And that's our show for you tonight. Thanks for watching and have a great weekend. Good night.